Nick, 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 Nick. Nickelodeon. Nick, 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 Nick. Nickelodeon.
Welcome everybody to Truexact Show. Nickelodeon month here continuing. I'm here with Ray and our special guest today. You may remember him from Wild and Crazy Kids. Is one of the 3 hosts or 4. I know you replaced one of them. We'll get to that, right? Yeah. We have our special guest today is Donnie Jeffcoat. How you doing, man? It's been a long
Hey, buddy.
time.
How you doing?
Not that we've ever met, but it's just been a long time, like delving into the Nickelodeon stuff. So it's really cool to get you on, man.
Thanks.
No problem. First, before we get into what you're up to now, man, we just want to know, like, how you got into the Nickelodeon scene, Wild and Crazy Kids. I'm sure we'll have some questions about some of the events that you did with Wild and Crazy Kids. But, like, how did you get that gig? Was it an agent or you just auditioned?
Yeah, that's basically it. I think I had just screen tested for the Mickey Mouse Club like the year before. And then I ended up getting the call from Nickelodeon, and they had us come in and, you know, obviously read the hosting script, and it was like a 3-part process. And they kind of put the host together, then they screen tested us together. I think I was just about to be a freshman in high school. It was 1989, and it was my freshman year in high school. I started. I think we did 70-something episodes from 89 to 93. And majority of those episodes were filmed 2 a week during the summertime, because that's when we could get all the kids from the communities to, you know, get involved in the games and stuff. So and then we did a couple of them during the school year, like some of the special ones. I think we did Hawaii once, filmed out there, I believe. Or was that live? It might have been live, because I went on to Nick Live after I did the 70 episodes or of the show. Then they took me on a tour, and so some of that stuff is mixed up in my memory banks. But yeah, man.
How was that being a freshman, landing that, and then like going to high school? Like, did your friends believe you? Or
yeah, you know, I was a child actor. I started on the Wonder Years back in like 85. Okay. And then, you know, prior to Nickelodeon, I was doing movies and television. So, you know, I had already been on, you know, Who's the Boss and Punky Brewster and Cagney and Lacey, you know, all the 80s shows. And then I did several movies back then, Night of the Demons, Ghoulies 2, and quite a few television films. And so I was already pretty much in it. So majority of my community around me down in Irvine knew that I was an actor. But I didn't see what's crazy about the Nickelodeon experience for me was that show became one of the biggest television shows for kids. And they kind of hid it from us. We didn't really, me and Omar and Jessica and Annette, we didn't realize how big the show had gotten. They actually, Omar's mom, at least the story that she told us, she found a huge box of all of our fan mail. We never received any of our fan mail unless the fans sent it through our agents and through our managers. Nickelodeon actually hid a lot of that stuff from us back then. Or at least, I say Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon really wasn't the actual full umbrella over our show. Our show was Woody Frazier Productions. And so that production company are the ones who just really, I think, probably hit it. I don't know if it was a malicious thing, but I have a feeling they hid it from us because they didn't want us to know how popular, because we would have asked for more money. It gives us some tools to go back to the bartering table, you know, every season. So I think the last season is when we realized that we were the #1 kids game show on network, because Arnold Schwarzenegger, I guess, had proclaimed us like the most healthy kids game show for kids, because we were all active and outside. And so he invited us to the White House when Bush Sr. was president, and we did this special episode with Arnold Schwarzenegger and the president and stuff. So that's kind of, I think, where we all realized, we're pretty big. You know, this is a pretty popular show. But anyway, yeah, kind of interesting. I that's why if you're a fan listening to this and you sent me fan mail and I didn't get back to you, it's because they didn't give it to us.
Somebody's had you on their like hate list for the past 30 years.
Like Billy
dude, that guy's an
asshole.
Why did he?
That explains why I used to write trying to get on the show with me and you, and then that explains everything. Well, I
That's
never got an
right.
answer back.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
right.
kind of a dick move, man.
I agree, man. I agree.
I don't know,
That
though.
really
Like,
is.
it is, but it isn't if you think about it. At that age, to like think about it at that age to understand the popularity and power, like it almost might have been beneficial. Like they might have been protecting you from yourselves at that
Could
age.
be.
Like it
Could be. I have a feeling it went a lot less depth there in regards to. I think it was really more about their control over the situation. You know, back in the 90s and 80s, the business was so different. I mean, you know, kids in the business these days are so much more protected than we were.
Yeah.
You know, in regards to just legality and how many hours they work and so on and so forth. I was the kid out of the three of us that I was the oldest, and except for Annette. Annette was a little older than me, but she was only in the first season. So after she left, I was the oldest kid, and my parents pretty much emancipated me as soon as I could drive at age 16. They stopped coming to set with me. So I was a lot of times on set by myself, and the person in charge of me was really just the studio teacher, who she basically, I think if I remember right, we signed a waiver over to her as basically legal guardian. But on the flip side, I really didn't have a guardian on set. So if we ever went over time, or if they needed some extra filming footage or what have you at the end of the day, they knew to put Donnie at the end of the day and ask him if he could stay the extra couple hours past what they are legally supposed to.
Right.
Because Omar's mom was on it. She would be like, "You're coming home. You're not working any longer." And so is, you know, Jessica's father was the same. You know, they were pretty protective of their rights as children. But you know, things were different back then. You know, back then producers, you know, even though we were young teenagers, they would come out, they'd yell at us. There was this one lady who was, you know, bless her heart, I want her to say her name was Connie, but whatever. She was one of the executive producers. And she was a bulldog, man. She'd come and yell us if we were late, you know, for work, or you know, didn't know our lines, or we couldn't be found, whatever the case may be. So it was a completely different program than what you find today.
It also was like it also like paved the way too. Like if you think about it, it was one of the shows where, you know, you as a kid, like everyone wanted to be on. It was kind of like a Family Feud type thing. Like, oh my God, I want to be on this show. And as a kid, it was like, all right, we can't mess up shit in our parents' house, but like you guys allowed everyone to just fuck shit up everywhere else. So it's like babysitting. Hey, don't break the shit at home. Go build. You can't put gum under the seat, but build a mound of gum. And if you could win.
Yeah, and some of the freaking games, dude, that we did were insane.
Yeah.
I mean, they were so. There was one that I remember these moon boot shoes that we did. I think it was the Dizzy Bat baseball day, and they had us in these moon boots. They were always trying to use these damn moon boots, and they were the biggest ankle rollers. They would break I mean, the minute you fall in them, man, your ankle smacks. You know, they didn't get the safety of these games was like out of control.
Right.
You know, I remember the producers would always try out these games, and we had a cool group of young people who were producing the show back then. I remember having some really good times with them. I mean, they were all older than us, but they would be the ones who came up with a lot of these games, and they were coming up with them from like their college days and stuff.
Wow.
You know, it's somewhat like Dizzy Bat baseball, I think, came off of a drinking game.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think
we've all done it. So like, I said, we've all done the Dizzy Bat baseball at one time in our lives. Like, like it's just stupid drunk ideas, and then they figured out a way to.
I think that's exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Was there ever, like, the one thing I wanted to ask too, like, even though you told me who created the games, that was a question, but was there ever any like serious injuries or like an injury where you like, maybe we should take it easy or not do this, and where you were kind of getting worried?
Yeah, there were some times where we would try a game out and it became a little too dangerous, or something just didn't work. Good thing is a lot of times if I remember right, they had backup games if something didn't work the way it was supposed to. And then I tell you what, because we were outside and we didn't have the control of an enclosed studio, kind of like, Double Dare, because, you know, the whole show is based on Double Dare. Mark
Yeah.
Summers was one of the creators of the show.
Yeah.
And he based it on Double Dare, but he wanted to break
Right.
the walls and get outside, right? So the elements a lot of times, like if it was too windy out, that would cause problems. If it was raining out, that was a real big issue. You know, thank God we were filming mostly in California. It doesn't rain a lot here, but there was, there was always the issues of the elements, and of course, like you said, of games that might have thought of they thought was gonna, they thought that they were gonna work, and then of course maybe it was too dangerous, or maybe it just didn't pan out. Sometimes the games were too tough for the kids. I remember sometimes they were just I remember sometimes we would get so messy at the beginning of a day with like eggs and whipped cream, and I'd be like usually the guy with all the shit all over me. And
He's emancipated. Get him.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So a lot of times though, that would cause the most uncomfortable day, because after a couple hours of sitting in the sun and that egg caked hair and such, you smelled like a giant fart. It was just disgusting. And a lot of times we were on sets on location that didn't even have anything other than like a hose. So you take a hose bath. It wasn't great conditions all the time.
Prison shower.
But man, some of the best times of my life though were doing that show. I mean, honestly, I have some of the greatest memories of my career. Especially when we were on tour. When we were on tour, I had a blast. But even when filming, we used to like have access to theme parks or water parks. We go to like wild rivers or raging waters, and we get there so early in the morning that the park would be hours for the first couple hours. We'd have full rain. And so we get to ride the rides. I remember climbing up slides backwards, going from the bottom to the top in raging waters and stuff. And they would always let me bring my friends. So during the summertime, a lot of times, my buddies would join me on set. And, and then, of course, when we did the Six Flags tour, we would get first in line of all the roller coasters and all that. So as a kid, dude, it was pretty badass.
Yeah, that's what's really cool. And it seems like everyone we talked to who's been a part of Nickelodeon, like the vibe there was so like, I don't know, friendly. Like it was just fun. Like they trusted you guys to not be animals, and like actually gave you free reign to do stuff. And like everyone, you almost behaved because of it.
Yeah, it kind of stinks because as far as the Wild and Crazy Kids go, we really never got too exposed to the Nickelodeon corporate production side because we were Woody Frazier Productions, bought out by Nickelodeon. Okay. In fact, that's why you don't see on Nick at Night and some of the rerun, like you don't see Wild and Crazy Kids reruns because the rights, I don't believe, are Nickelodeon's. I believe they're still Woody Frazier Productions. So that sucks because with technology taking over the world with kids now, you'd love a show like that to be out now so the kids get outside and actually do stuff. Like it would work so much right now. Yeah. And I think didn't they try to bring it back like in the 90s or the early 2000s?
I don't know. I don't
think it was 2000. I think 2002. They tried to come back with it, but it didn't have. See, that's the thing. Like when you have that, like spur of the moment vintage, like it's like a nostalgia thing where it's the right moment, right time for something, and then when you try to rejuvenate it, it doesn't pan out a lot.
Yeah. I never saw it. I just heard that they tried to revamp it, but but it was a good time. Something I was always jealous of were the shows like Hey Dude and Clarissa Explains It All, and even like NICKARCADE and Michael Malley on Guts. They had Nickelodeon Studios backing those shows.
Right.
So it was a whole nother level of production and professionalism, whereas Wild and Crazy Kids kind of was a rogue show. And a lot of people don't realize that we weren't Nickelodeon Studios. We were kind of co-owned.
I wouldn't have known that either. What was the one event, like activity, like your favorite that was ever done? Do you have one of them? that you remember?
I always enjoyed going to the parks. I mean, a lot of the hardest days were the ones that we were in, like just a local park, like up here in the valley. You know, they would just choose a park somewhere in San Fernando Valley, like in Burbank or what have you. Those days were some of the toughest ones because, again, the accommodations. I mean, we had our honey wagons, you know, so our dressing rooms had AC and stuff, but the, you know, we didn't have a lot of shower. We didn't have the comfort and such. So those days sometimes were a little hectic, but I feel like the organization of the production was always top tier when we were at a park, like you know, where it was Six Flags or you know, when we went to Magic Mountain or when we went to Raging Waters or Wild Rivers, and we did the shows at those places because they had to kind of keep everything nice and tight. And then of course, like I said, once I got off the show and we stopped filming and they asked me to do the Wild and Crazy Kids live tour. That's when things really started getting fun. Yeah. I was 19 at the time, and so I was on tour 19. In fact, I turned 21 while I was on tour that weekend, and we just had a blast. I mean, you know, it was, and we were playing Great Western Forum, we were playing Madison Square Garden, and then we had a tour that hit all the different Paramount Adventures. You know, like they were basically Six Flags, like amusement parks. They had a contract with them, so we tour each amusement park and do live shows at the amusement park. So, you know, I was seeing the world. I was seeing the whole country, you know, as a young guy, you know, just getting to experience all kinds of things. So those are some of the best days of my life back then.
You mentioned the moon boots, the dizzy bat. What about a contest that you watch the kids do that, like, still sticks with you today, that you're like, that still is the best contest, like, thought up, or the wildest one that you would have never concocted in your own mind? Is there anyone that's
brother? Everything meshes together. I wish I could say I had a specific thing, but I have the entire collection of episodes on DVD. I promised my wife one day when my daughter's old enough, I'm going to actually sit down and rewatch some of these episodes to remind myself what the hell was going on back then. But I really, everything is, honestly, you guys probably remember more than I do.
Yeah,
in regards to the specificity.
The one that always sticks in my brain, and it was in the intro, is you guys were in like a mall. And you were like passing out, I don't remember what you were passing out to the kids, but it was like right in the intro. And then you did a whole episode, I think at like the Mall of America or something.
Yeah, you're right.
It was so long ago.
I don't even remember, bro. I honestly, I remember a lot of games. Really, honestly, if my memory serves me well, some of those games just didn't work. Yeah. And a lot of times, I think they fixed them in the editing suite. You know, I really
see that though.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff was like, and I remember also getting frustrated because a lot of times they would change the games last minute, and excuse me. They would change the games last minute on me, and of course that would change the script. So, you know, we'd struggle just remembering the lines because all of a sudden they give us 2 new paragraphs of games and such to remember how to, you know, the instructions and all that stuff. I always had one of the assistants, one of the PAs, had big old cards with all my lines on them right by the camera. And depending on the day, I bet you, and I have to go back and watch, but you could probably see my eyes reading right off the cards half the time.
That's funny.
So, yeah.
So what, out of all the places you toured, you mentioned the water parks, New York, like, you as a kid, being that age, like, what was the one place, you being from California, what was the one place you visited that you were like in awe of, like the garden?
I think it was 93 or 94. Nickelodeon got a call from the Sultan of Brunei, and I mean, I'm sure it wasn't the Sultan himself, but you know what I'm saying. So they called and asked for me and the show for his niece's birthday.
Wow.
So they flew us out on like Royal Bruneian Airlines to the country of Brunei, which is very, very rare to even get an American visa. They don't even allow them.
I couldn't even tell you where that is on a map.
Where? Yeah, I've never heard of it.
I want to say it's just north of Vietnam. It's a Malaysian country. It's very small. Basically, my understanding is the whole country floats on oil, and it's one of the few monarchies left. So it was like super rigid rules. I remember when we got there, we were pretty much eagle-eyed the entire time. We had very little freedom out. They basically said, you stay in the hotel. You know, again, I think it's one of the countries that has been at least there's accusations that it's harbored terrorists and stuff. It's a pretty gnarly country, you know, in regards to the way it's run. But very wealthy, very wealthy. I know that the palace that we did the show in during the trip was the palace of the Sultan's daughter, I believe, because it was her daughter, 4-year-old. I want to say Princess Akita or something like that. It was her birthday, and in the palace there were all these pictures of the Jacksons. Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson. So the Jacksons were really close to the families, this specific daughter, and they were consistent. I guess they visited quite often. But when we asked to stay for an extra day or two to tour the country, they were very, very rigid about how long we could stay. Yes, we'll give you 1 day, I believe, or and they put a tour guide with us, and we were basically toured around, shown the things that they wanted us to see, and then basically sent back to the hotel and put back on a plane the next day. It was the only show I had ever done that I got tipped after the show. They came up and they gave me a cash tip, and it was really weird. Me and my co-host Brian Stinson, he used to do a lot of the co-hosting with me back then. He was a host from the Nickelodeon Studios tour that they grabbed when Mike O'Malley wasn't available, or Phil Moore was on tour with me for a while. Mike O'Malley, and basically the four of us were the main guys hosting the tour show. And anyway, there were all these rules. Like at one point, we had slime in the show integrated into the live show, and at the end, we were going to slime the princess. And she had like this dress on that we were told was worth like, $100,000 or something. And we could not get it. We couldn't get anything on it. And I mean, there were these crazy rules that I couldn't even look certain people in the eye, like it was against the rules. There were all these royal families from all over Europe in the audience, like France and Italy and so on and so forth. It was just crazy. You asked me one of my biggest experiences and most memorable experience, it would be that show. Yeah. It was pretty intense. And then afterwards they flew us, I want to say we went to Singapore, and they gave us this huge, each one of us, these huge marble floored suites at this beautiful hotel. I remember going out in Singapore and meeting these Australians, and they came back and partied all night in the suite with me. And then we ended up in Tokyo on our way back, and me and one of the producers spent a couple nights in Tokyo together. So pretty interesting. I mean, it was a really weird experience. One of the most nerve-wracking hosting experiences when we actually did the show I've ever had. I mean, they wouldn't even allow us to eat with everybody. They put us with the help. They put us with the cooks and the house cleaning crew and stuff. That's where we ate lunch. It sounds like when the basketball players go over to like North Korea, like that's the experience you're telling. Like, what I mean? Yeah, it was really bizarre. It was very bizarre. So crazy. I have video of it still and a lot of pictures. But I remember Brian, the guy who co-hosted, Brian Stinson he's the creator and the executive producer of Dance Moms now. Oh, okay. Yeah. So anyway, he and I remember he wasn't sleeping well. He was nervous, and I think he went home early, and me and a couple of the other guys stayed around and toured Tokyo and stuff. But it was weird. It was a crazy experience. Yeah, that was I don't even know how to top that story, honestly. Yeah, so right. I'm sure if you gave me more time, bro, I could come up. I mean, another good experience on Wild and Crazy Kids was the Dude Ranch. That was pretty awesome. We did it up in Utah for I think we were up there for a good week, because I think we did 2 or 3 episodes on the ranch. we were doing 2 episodes a week.
Yeah.
And it was really during the summertime. I think we filmed 4 days, I want to say, and then we did one night of voiceover work. So it was basically a pretty tight schedule. We'd finish one show in a day or two, and then start the other episode. And I think sometimes they would even just have us film a bunch of games, and sometimes they'd end up splicing some of the episodes together. I can't remember though. Again, it's been so long.
That's all right.
Anyway,
After Wild and Crazy Kids, like you were 21, the season end. Like, did you continue acting, or you just kind of ended it and started? I don't want to say living a normal life, but a less like stressful, less demanding life. Like, I know you have a dojo now, so like explain like what happened afterwards and how you got into what you do now.
Well, I even throughout my time at Nickelodeon, I was still doing guest stars and doing other projects as an actor. So when I got off the show, I want to say I started doing obviously some guest stars, but then I did Seventh Heaven for a while as a reoccurring, and I did like Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and then I ended up booking One Life to Live. I ended up in New York for several years doing the soap opera, and I was doing films and such there. Came back to LA, did some theater, did some more guest stars like CSI New York and NCIS and such, and then did the World War II film Fortress. Basically just continued pursuing the acting career after that. I'd been doing it since I was 9 years old, basically, so it was pretty much in my blood. But I got back from New York in 2001, and I think it was 2001, 2002, and moved back to LA with the hopes of continuing working. And I felt burnt out, and I felt kind of like, I needed a change in my life. I'd been doing the acting thing for so long. It started becoming more anxiety ridden for me than anything. Like my anxiety levels were so high because I was older. I was in my late 20s, early 30s now, and I was starting to realize that the industry was, especially as an adult, like looking for a future, was so spotty. You just never knew. Even today's industry, I have friends who are still working out there, and the working actors still have to have that backup plan. And I didn't really want to have to worry any longer about that next job every single time I get off of a set. I have to worry about auditioning the next week and finding that next project as soon as humanly possible so that I could pay my bills. So that's when I started exploring other careers. And it was really weird being as the age I was. I had never worked a real job before. I had always been a working actor. So, like a lot of my high school buddies and college buddies, they were able to explore other careers, and they had jobs, like normal jobs, working at a restaurant or working at Home Depot, whatever it was, or pursuing a career in journalism, whatever the case, right? I didn't have that background. So in my 30s, I was exploring things that most guys did in their early 20s. So I think I was working in an accounting office at one point as a bookkeeper. I was doing construction. I was chefing. I became an executive chef for a couple of years down in Hollywood. And I was a bouncer at clubs doing security. It was crazy. And so I guess the one thing that stuck with me as long as acting was the martial arts. I started training in martial arts the same year as a kid as I started acting. And that's something that I always kind of stuck with throughout my whole career. Even if I couldn't be consistent with it because of my schedule, I always found a dojo to train in between jobs and such. And so I started training pretty consistently again in my early 30s or late 20s, I think it was, and I started realizing that it was a true love, like a passion for me, and I started teaching, assistant teaching at a school right here down the street, and that really kind of hooked me. I started feeling the same level of reward and passion that I did for acting, because I was able to kind of entertain when you're up in front of everybody, teaching self-defense, you got everybody's attention. You're running a show for an hour, basically. A little different of a game show, but it's still a show, you know. And I think I started seeing that the positive influence I was having on my students and the kids and the adults, and we were changing lives, and I think and bettering people's lives, and I think that really kind of hooked me. And I decided in 2010 to start looking for my own school, my own piece of property to start my own program. And we found this building I'm in right now, right here in North Hollywood in 2011, and I signed the lease. And when I left the old school and started this company, about 75% of the student base left with me. And so I opened my doors here with over 50 students, and now we're up past like 220.
Nice.
And it's been about 10 years since I've been in business. June was my 10-year anniversary, to June of this year, I mean. And it's just been awesome. I mean, it's been stressful, definitely different than the acting industry, but it's just filled my soul with a lot of reward, man. I'm stoked to be able to say that, you know, that I've not only helped myself grow, but I think me and my team here, we've established a wonderful reputation in the community for helping other people grow, you know. And all ages. I mean, our youngest is like 3.5 years old, and I think right now my oldest student is like almost 80. So we have
Wow.
we have
I guess
all
at
different
that
ages.
age. But like, and that's, see, it's funny you said that, because that's what I was going to ask. Did you find, like, because it's two different mediums, but in still, like, whether it was Wild and Crazy Kids in acting or the dojo, you're still like an escape for people, where you're that person that people go to for an escape, either watching it, forgetting about everything, or going to learn martial arts with you. You're kind of in that same boat as acting in a way too. And it's,
I mean, I will tell you right now,
you know,
there is no way I would be as good of a teacher as I am now without the years of training the acting industry gave me, and being able to read everyone's energy in the room and tailor fit a class every night, you know, or every day for who's in front of me. And then, of course, working with the kids, I thank Nickelodeon for that, Wild and Crazy Kids for that, because my kids program rocks. And that's because I knew how to get those kids' attention because of the training that Nickelodeon gave me throughout all those episodes that I did of Wild and Crazy Kids. So again, it's quite a blessing to see the two both kind of work together hand in hand. And, you know, and now I'm thinking about getting back into the industry of acting because I feel like, okay, I'm established now. I got a good business, and I don't have to worry about my future financially as much. So now I can maybe go back and enjoy the art of acting and kind of not have the anxiety that comes along with, oh my God, can I get this? You know, I got to have this next job in order to pay my rent. You know, I think I may, you know, actually find happiness back in the industry again. So kind of neat how it kind of comes full circle.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's nice to see when like us two talk to someone we watched growing up, like you're in a good place mentally, and it's just like really cool to see, because you know, the whole child actor type stereotype, they get a little crazy, but you see
there's a reason why, man. It's the acting industry as a kid. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, it's been up. I mean, you know, it can do a number to you. I was lucky. I had a really strong family. My parents were good to me. They let me be a kid. They didn't push me. You know, I didn't grow up in an acting family. You know, my parents didn't know anything about it, really. They just knew that I had a passion and I was working, and that's what kept me going. Is I just kept working, you know, and kept booking. And so they allowed me when I was burnt out. They, you know, like for instance, in high school, I wanted to be a part of high school. I wanted to go to the dances. I want to go to prom. I wanted to be a part of my friends' parties and stuff. Yeah, I want to be social. I wanted to be normal. That was the one thing that was really, really big in my mind back in the day, was even as a younger kid in elementary, I just wanted to be known as being normal. I didn't want to be known as that acting kid, right? And so I did kind of stay out of the Hollywood scene quite a bit. I mean, I had my days in my 20s where I ran around with a little Rat Pack and such. But for the most part, I still had the same guys I grew up with as my best friends to this day. Like
Wow.
my best friends in this world are the guys that I went to third grade with and on.
Cool.
And so and I thank my family for that because they kept me grounded. They never let me really fly away. And of course, guys, I had my days. I have definitely made poor choices. I've definitely had my negative years of in my 20s not knowing who the hell I was, and probably in New York partying a little too much and so on and so forth, going out searching for the beers more than the jobs. But I don't have any regret on that either, because I mean my buddies in New York are still like brothers to me. So we had some of the best years of our lives when I was doing One Life to Live out there. But I will tell you, I've seen a lot of my friends, and it hurts to see, but there's been some struggle, especially for the people who started in the acting industry so young and they're still pursuing it as an adult. It can do a real number to you. I mean, you have to understand how much what do you call it? Disappointment you go through as an artist, constant disappointment. And I mean, you book 1 out of every 10 auditions, maybe. That's a really good run. But 9 of those auditions, you're getting turned down left and right, those interviews, so it could be hard on the soul, but
Wow.
I'm thankful, man. I'm thankful I found my way through it, and I just kind of used it as a launching pad for bigger and better things in my life.
Yeah. So I know you're not like too much on social media. I don't know if you have an Instagram or a Twitter. Where could people follow you or find your information? Do you have a website for your dojo? Anything?
Yeah, there's SDA.com. That's where you can find our website for the dojo. And then, of course, on Facebook, I'm Donnie Jeffcoat. And Shaolin American Self-Defense Academy has a Facebook site. And my Instagram is, I think, Donnie Karate. And
Nice.
So I'm not, I mean, I post some stuff online here and there, but yeah, I haven't tweeted, never been on Twitter or Twitter.
Stay away.
Yeah.
Stay away.
Yeah, brother. I just can't do it. And Instagram,
It's toxic. Toxic.
It is, bro. And I mean, Instagram, I have my stuff up there. We have the Shaolin American stuff up there, so you can kind of follow that. For me, I'm not that active. For my Facebook, it kind of is more personal. I post stuff from my family, and then of course I let people kind of see and follow my career in martial arts. Martial arts has been awesome for me. I mean, I teach in England every year, and I've taught in Barbados and in Germany and in France and Netherlands. So it's been really good to me. I'm out in the East Coast quite a bit, teaching in Boston and New York. So I kind of feel like I'm still acting in a way, just a few more bruises. It's a little more fun. I get to hit people and teach them how to hit. So
that's awesome, man. No, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I even had a chance to. One of my clients was the Angelina Jolie family, and I was teaching her kids for several years, and they were lovely people. And she became a friend and asked me to help her with the weapons that she's going to be showing in the Eternals movie. So all that sword stuff, a lot of that's from me, which was really kind of fun to work with her, and totally mixed it up for me in my career, and was kind of neat to kind of go back and start working with actors again as well. So I'm excited to see that film, just because I want to see how much she used of my stuff.
Yeah.
So
that'll be your first tweet. Right.
No, bro, no tweeting for this guy, bro.
It's really cool to chop it up with you. It's really cool to have you guys that we grew up watching be such nice people, and we've only had 1 or 2 jerks, I would say.
Really?
But no, you're.
What's the point, man? What's the point? Freaking insecure.
Yeah, if we ever hang out, I'll let you know who they were.
I would like that. Yeah, we'll keep it off air right now.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks a lot, buddy.
All right, you guys, be safe.